There was a time I believed that anyone who said God bless you truly meant it. That if they sat beside you in church, they carried peace, not poison. I thought titles meant trust. I thought shared faith meant shared loyalty. And so I remember sitting in that sanctuary, the kind with stained glass windows and echoes of old prayers. People were clapping, lifting their hands, saying all the right words. But even in that holy place, my spirit felt tension. Something unseen, but felt. I didn't want to believe it, but the signs were there. You've probably noticed that some people you thought were safe or on your side have shown their true colors. Maybe it was people in positions of power, spiritual spaces, mentors, or even partners. The dream is telling you, use your discernment, not titles, not appearances. Even people who speak God's name can carry envy in their hearts. What I learned that day still echoes in me. Discernment is a gift. God never told me to judge, but He did tell me to watch. I saw them pray with me and pray on me in the same breath. I saw smiles that hid swords, and I kept quiet for too long. Looking back, it all makes sense now. Even some of the systems or institutions you've trusted, like lenders, programs, or officials, have let you down or blocked you. The message? Stay rooted in God, not in buildings or people. Your source is greater than any structure. There were moments I begged systems to see me, to fund me, to believe me. But they were built to ignore people like me. I knocked on doors that had no handles on the inside. They made me feel invisible, until I remembered who I was. My source was never a grant, never a title, never their approval. My source has always been God. That's how I'm still standing. I kept asking why until the truth hit me. Not everyone clapping for you is clapping from the heart. Not every table was meant for your seat. Some tables were meant for your test. Some were meant to show you who you are and who they aren't. And I started walking differently. With less noise, more discernment. I stopped shrinking. I stopped over-explaining. I stopped begging for access and started building my own. Because every piece of pain was a page in the story. And now, I see it wasn't rejection. It was redirection. One moment changed everything. It was the silence that got louder. Not the words, but the energy. The shift in tone. The way certain people started clapping less. The way doors that used to open with ease now creaked like they were tired of me knocking. And that's when I knew my presence no longer served their comfort. But that wasn't my burden to carry anymore. You see, I used to chase peace with people who only felt powerful when I was small. I used to shrink so they wouldn't feel insecure. I'd downplay my vision just to be relatable. But something in my soul said, no more. No more softening your voice when you were born to speak thunder. No more denying your light to keep shadows company. At first, I thought it was just me. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I was being too sensitive. But when it keeps happening, when you start noticing the same patterns in different people, it's no longer paranoia, it's revelation, it's discernment maturing in silence. And here's the truth. Some people loved you when you were broken because it made them feel whole. Some institutions funded you when you were small, but feared you growing beyond their control. Some hands only helped you because they thought you'd never rise. But the moment you started rising, their true feelings surfaced. And still, I stayed silent. Still, I prayed for them. Still, I showed up, but God saw what they did. God heard what they said behind closed doors. God took notes when they passed judgment on your growth without ever watering your roots. And that's when I realized something. Even betrayal is part of the blessing, because it teaches you to listen with more than your ears, to feel with more than your heart, to trust what your spirit knows long before your mind catches up. Looking back, it all makes sense now. I had to be excluded to learn I didn't need inclusion. I had to lose some friends to find my foundation. I had to be denied by the system to discover the source. And once I found the source, I stopped begging the system. They couldn't see me because they weren't supposed to. Now, I walk differently, not arrogantly, but anointed. Not to prove anything, but to fulfill everything. And this time, I don't need their seat at the table. Because I brought my own wood, carved my own chair, and built a table where my spirit is welcome and my name is honored. I didn't want to believe it, but the signs were there. I kept telling myself they meant well. That maybe I was being too harsh. That maybe I needed to pray harder, serve more, be humbler. But every time I gave them grace, they gave me grief. Every time I extended my hand, they measured how much they could take. Every time I let them close, they cut me deeper, then blamed me for bleeding. Still, I stayed quiet. Still, I showed up, until one day I realized I was never wrong for loving them, but I was wrong for loving them louder than I loved myself. That's when the shift happened. I no longer needed their approval. I stopped shrinking in spaces I was called to shift. I stopped explaining my purpose to people who were committed to misunderstanding it. I stopped chasing peace with people who built their identity on my silence. And here's what I learned. When your spirit is loud, insecure souls get uncomfortable. When your truth is undeniable, liars scatter. When your calling is activated, counterfeit support reveals itself. So let them walk, let them distance themselves, let them misunderstand you. Because when God elevates you, not everyone can breathe at that altitude. Some relationships were rooted in your past version. They loved you as long as you stayed in the background. They clapped for your struggle, but fell silent at your success. And once you start to heal, once you start to build, once you start to speak with clarity and power, they fall off. Not because you changed, but because they never expected you to evolve. Let me remind you, your growth will offend the stagnant. Your light will expose the hidden. Your rise will test the loyalties of everyone around you. But rise anyway. They won't understand how you're still standing. They won't understand how you're still moving forward after being blocked, blacklisted, denied. They won't understand how you keep glowing when everything around you tried to dim your spirit. But they don't need to understand. Because favor doesn't ask for permission, and purpose doesn't wait for applause. You're no longer here to prove anything to them. You're here to build, to heal, to speak, and to lead. And now that you know who you are, there's no going back.